Welcome to a special end-of-year clips edition of What Gets Measured, the NinjaCat podcast about marketing performance management, metrics, and effectiveness, because what gets measured gets managed. I am your host, Jake Sanders, and today we're going to give you only the best. Out of all the episodes we released this year, we will cover 5 that stood out from the rest. These interviews gained the most engagement, downloads, traction on social, and so, in a way, it is you, the audience, that has co-produced this episode. And what's even cooler is that there is a central theme tying all of these clips together: bridging the gap between data and human understanding. You ready? Let's get to it. Famed advertising icon David Ogilvy famously said, "Consumers don't think how they feel. They don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say." The main takeaway being marketers shouldn't rely on what people say. It's better to track what they do. And the best way to do that is through data. In the decades since Ogilvy's utterance, marketing has become more and more driven by data, creating incredible opportunities for quantitative efficiency. However, as data has grown bigger and more complex, the challenge has shifted to bridging the gap between endless streams of information and the human understanding needed to turn that data into meaningful action. And so, let's go through the clips selected for this year and explore how to close that gap, bringing humans and data closer together to drive smarter, more impactful marketing.
The Data-Driven Mindset with Brent Dykes.
Brent has built his career around data storytelling, which connects perfectly with the theme of this episode because in our interview, Brent talks about how to move beyond simply collecting data to cultivating curiosity, critical thinking, and a willingness to challenge assumptions. He emphasizes the importance of asking questions and seeking a deeper understanding of what the data reveals.
Always ask yourself, what does the data say, right? So it's always thinking about, when we're, whatever situation we're in, okay, what do the numbers say? And that means avoiding speculation, quick judgments. It's keeping an open mind. It's hearing what the numbers have to say, and then challenging the data to understand what's happening, not challenging the data to dismiss it. When I look at the driven part, I don't look at it like we're controlled by the numbers, that we're not, we lose our ability to have our autonomy, to make our decisions using our judgment and different things. What I think the driven means is up until now, we've pretty much, in many cases, ignored the data when we don't like it, right? We just ignore the numbers. When the numbers don't say what we want them to say, let's bury these. Let's not pay attention to them. We only pay attention to the numbers when they support our agenda or our position. And so I think that's where selective attention to the numbers is the problem. And I think it's, when I say data driven, is we're always looking at the numbers. We're always, how did we perform last month? How are we performing this month? Whether or not that controls every decision that we make, I don't think that's the issue. It's, are we leaning into the numbers, or are we just picking and choosing when we pay attention to them? As an analyst or as a marketer, if I can communicate something to decision makers and get them to try it, to take it action, to do something with the number, based on the numbers and what the data is saying, that's success in my mind.
Brent's episode is important because it unpacks the term data-driven, which can widen the gap between understanding and data. For skeptics of the term data-driven, Brent offers a softer alternative: data-influenced. It captures the essence of using data as a sensory mechanism, as informed intuition, he explains. Maybe one of the ways we bridge the gap is by being less driven by data and more influenced. One thing's for sure, the data will keep coming, thanks in part to a very special term in digital advertising: cookies.
The Crumbling Cookie Parties of Marketing with Shiv Gupta.
Shiv does awesome work at U of Digital, upskilling the ad industry on all the step changes the market makes us go through. My interview with him bridges the gap between data and human understanding with a focus on cookies, where they came from, how advertisers got twisted up in the privacy kitchen, and how a move away from cookies could be a net good for the industry.
Cookies were invented by Netscape, I believe, like an engineer at Netscape in the 90s. And they were not invented for advertising purposes, right? They were invented to be able to like create this notion of memory on the browser, right? Because
Right.
memory on the browser can really enhance a user's experience. Very simple example. I go to walmart.com. I'm logging in because I want to buy some products. I don't want to have to enter my username and password every time. I want Walmart to remember me, right? And so that's what the cookie does, right? If you don't have a cookie, Walmart can't really remember you. And so that's why cookies were invented. And then the advertising industry comes along and repurposes the cookie for cross-site data collection, tracking, targeting, measurement, all these things that were not intended. So yes, this is a problem we've created, and now we've got to get our way out of it. And now fast forward to 2024, we're in a world where digital advertising is changing a lot because of the privacy discourse, right? The data that we typically have used in this space is kind of going away because the data a lot of times is proliferated through these identifiers that are persistent across all of our different environments, across apps, across our browser, across Google Chrome, across Safari. These persistent identifiers like cookies and device IDs, they allow these big companies to attach a lot of data about us and use them all over the place willy-nilly, right? And so because privacy has become such a big thing, because Apple has pushed it forward so much, government has passed more regulation that reduces the data that's collected on us. And now Apple, and specifically Google, are removing the identifiers. Apple's already removed cookies in Safari. Google is following in their footsteps. And so the data that they can collect on us and attach to us and use on us in all these different environments and contexts is withering away. So listen, in TV, we don't have cookies, right? There's no cookies. But we all know TV works. We know TV works. TV influences customers. TV gets people out of their seats and go like buy products. TV gets people to call and buy products, right? We know it works, and it's worked throughout history. And so TV doesn't have cookies. And also, TV doesn't have this misattribution problem as well, because marketers are forced to be way more big picture, way more strategic about their measurement, as opposed to super tactical and looking at all the little cookies, you know? And so it's just, that's why I say it's in the eye of the beholder a little bit of like, does removing the cookies actually help or hurt measurement? I think there's a very good argument to be made that big picture, it actually may help, right? Because it may help refocus the marketers on the big picture and on the strategic aspects of measurement.
Shiv's episode is important because it talks in detail about the technical ways data sets are disconnected from the humans represented by the numbers. If you can move toward first-party data and consent frameworks that make sense, it's going to improve the accountability of your analytics and the data management processes you oversee. One of the best ways to keep a handle on that is by taking data leadership seriously, something our next guest knows a little bit about.
Modern Data Leadership with Malcolm Hawker.
In his work with Prophecy and over 25 years in data and analytics, Malcolm advocates for a transformation in data leadership, urging leaders to prioritize human connection and communication over a sole focus on technology. In our interview, he challenges the common garbage in, garbage out mentality, positioning data quality as an opportunity for growth.
Data quality is an opportunity, not a burden.
Mm.
Okay? It's an opportunity and it's not a burden. Thinking of it as a burden is going to put you on a back foot. It's going to put you into that negative mindset, and it's going to make you start thinking that people don't appreciate what you do. It's going to make you start thinking that people question the value of what you do, that your job is harder than it may be. It is not a burden. It is an opportunity. What do I mean by that? Well, there are two uses of data. There's analytical uses and there's operational uses. Every one of those 800 instances of 7-Eleven on Scott Taylor's spreadsheet may be, I don't know if it is or it isn't, but may be fit for purpose for that operational use. If somebody is in a CRM or ERP and sees 7-Eleven in numeric form, sees it 7-11 in written form, sees 7-11 or 7/11, they're going to know exactly what it is. To your question, are leaders born? Are they made? Is the problem the data? Leaders most certainly can be made. You can train people. Our brains are infinitely malleable. You can change your perspective. Glass half full, glass half empty. We can change the way data leaders think here. We most certainly can. So this is a development opportunity, I would argue, but the problem runs incredibly deep. It's incredibly deep. Just the idea of garbage in, garbage out.
Mm-hmm.
Right, garbage in, garbage out. Can you imagine if the COO of Frito-Lay consistently referred to their corn as garbage? Right? Or the COO of Anheuser-Busch was always complaining about how crappy their water was that went into their beer? I mean, think about it. We must become better leaders in order to take advantage of the AI goldmine that is sitting before us.
For sure.
This requires an entirely different mental paradigm. I think you were trying to hint at this. And that mental paradigm is one that deeply embraces the probabilistic nature of the way these systems behave, which necessarily requires you to jettison the deterministic thought patterns you've been using for the last 30 years to run a data analytics function. Okay? Right? The idea that data is either correct or incorrect. You're data driven or you're not data driven. These deterministic patterns, either it's a null field or the field is populated. And I could keep going on and on and on. But the fact of the matter is that AI-based systems are probabilistic, right? And it may be this under this situation with this level of probability, right? And that is the first job that we need to embrace, which means that every way that we've been managing classic, what I would call classic data management and data governance, you need to apply a new lens to that.
Malcolm's episode is fantastic because his best advice on how to approach data better doesn't require math or coding or anything technical. It's all about the mindset. It's all about the people. If you have mastery over the processes and people, bringing technology into the mix is easy. And one of the surest ways to bridge understanding in data is through data storytelling.
Turning data into actionable stories with Kudzai Chakawata.
As the Audiences and Technology Solutions Director for Publicis, Kudzai champions the crucial role of collaboration and context in data analysis. In our discussion, she talked about the extroverts and introverts in data, argued against relying solely on data to dictate strategy, and emphasized that data is most powerful when used as a tool for understanding within a larger business context.
From my experience of having led analytical teams of multiple sizes and in various contexts within a business, be it commercial, be it product focused, be it customer focused, I actually don't believe necessarily in the hard rule of there being two types of analyst. I genuinely think anybody who wants to explore sharpening a skill in one end or another can learn if they are given the environment where they are coached and supported through it. And that's what I genuinely think. And so those who are really deep into the technical, if they have the desire to become better at the storytelling side and want to present in front of stakeholders, I think it does people and analysts such a huge disservice by just hiding them in a dark cupboard coding, when in fact they want to work on that, but they may not have the skills now. I'd say certainly thinking that data is a panacea for all corporate ills is one thing. And certainly, to deviate a bit, overworking analytics teams, not setting clear roadmaps and priorities so we all understand direction of travel, and the teams then end up constantly hammered with piecemeal contextless requests, which lead to analysts not seeing the value of their hard work, treating data functions or analytics as service functions, thinking, as I touched on before, thinking with respect to data that more data is better, and focusing too much on data, technology, and tooling with disconnectivity from people and outcome. And it's that development of that complete and utter collaboration, that almost symbiosis of an analyst with all the other functions that come together to actually influence where a business goes in terms of the direction. It's that which is the absolute key. There's nothing quite like it. I've been in one setup where that actually happened, and I'm telling you, there is nothing like it. The business benefit that will come of it will be like nothing you've ever seen. It's a very hard thing to get right and to set up, but it's worth the pain. It's worth the time investment to go through of having analysts embedded in the day-to-day, not being the last port of call to just flog when things go wrong or to bring in at the last minute without any context. We're kind of over that, to be honest. We actually want to be, as I quote in my LinkedIn, we are equally invested partners in outcome. So bring us along on that journey.
This episode is great because it's another example of a really extremely smart person that is very knowledgeable about math and statistics, that doesn't believe technical capabilities are what's holding humans back from understanding data. It's themselves. And a little thing called data literacy.
Marketing Data Literacy with Dale Harrison.
In a world where marketing jargon and buzzwords dominate the conversation, Dale cuts through the noise. In our interview, Dale shared insights into how marketers can develop a more rigorous approach to understanding data and what it takes to be truly effective. Dale's goal is to equip marketers with the essential elements of data literacy, encouraging them to ask critical questions about the origins and implications of data. He stresses the importance of thinking logically and avoiding blind acceptance of numerical claims.
And the thing I've always said is that data literacy doesn't mean you know how to calculate a bunch of equations. Data literacy means you have a bullshit detector in your head that allows you to ask the right 2 or 3 questions about whether or not this thing makes a lick of sense. There doesn't appear to be more than maybe 1 in 10,000 marketers that seem to be capable of grasping the difference between a forecast and a performance metric, between things that haven't yet happened but might happen in the future versus numbers that describe actual things that have happened in the real world in the past. And you would think that the ability to tell the difference between the past and the future would not be difficult, but it turns out to be. But the point is that I think it becomes extremely critical to understand the distinction between a guess, however good that guess might be, a guess about stuff in the future that may or may not ever happen versus a number describing things that have actually happened in the real world, which means in the past. And every time you take a number from the past and you bolt it on to a guess about the future, the end result of that is a forecast, which is another guess about the future. Where did this number come from? Is this number a guess, or is it something you measured? Is this number something that happened in the past, or something that you hope will happen in the future? These are very basic questions. You don't need, you can have complete, total data literacy, with nothing more than roughly a 5th grade level of math literacy. You don't need math to do this. You just need to think logically when there are claims that come attached with numbers.
And that's a wrap for our special end-of-year clips edition of What Gets Measured. From adopting a data-influenced mindset to navigating the future of marketing beyond cookies, and from elevating data literacy and leadership to turning insights into actionable stories, we've explored a powerful theme throughout the year, bridging the gap between data and human understanding. As we head into 2025, a year poised to redefine marketing with the rapid evolution of AI, let's take these lessons with us. Let's challenge assumptions, stay curious, and remember that the most powerful breakthroughs happen when we put people at the heart of our data strategies. AI will undoubtedly change the way we work, but it's the human element, our creativity, critical thinking, and communication that will define success. Thank you for listening, for engaging, and for being the reason we keep creating this podcast. Until next time, keep measuring what matters. Don't just keep up with the change. Lead it.